Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Harrisburg City Council Legislative Session, December 23rd, 2014. I want to apologize for the lateness of our starting the meeting. We had to go over a couple issues concerning the budget and a couple of documents related to the budget. At this time, I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:25. Mr. Claiborne, could you please do the roll call?
Mr. Allett.
Present.
Mr. Baltimore. Ms. Daniels.
Present.
Mr. Kaplinski.
Present.
Ms. Reed. Ms. Wilson.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here. And please, for the record, Mr. Claiborne, I want to state that Ms. Reed is on medical leave until January 5th, so she is excused tonight. Thank you. Moving on to the invocation, Mr. Kaplinski.
Let's bow our heads for a moment of silence. We'll call those who are sick and infirmed, in harm's way, serving our country, and need a light to shine upon them during this Christmas week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplinski. Mr. Allett, invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would everyone please at this point silence your cell phones? Council members, please remove all your electronic devices, please, at this time off the desk. Moving on to communications, we have none this evening. And we'll move on to courtesy of the floor. I'll start at my right. Please come to the mic.
Good evening,
Good evening.
councilors, Madam President. And before I start, let me wish everybody happy holidays.
Thank you. Same to you.
With all the folks here, I didn't expect that I'd be the first one up here, quite frankly.
That's fine.
Thought I could kind of ease into this. I'm here on behalf of, my name is Sengor Mance. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Harrisburg Housing Authority, so I represent a host of residents in the city of Harrisburg. And as you all know, I've been loath to interject myself and the Harrisburg Housing Authority into this conversation regarding LRTA, the tax abatement considerations that the council has been going through. And that's intentional. The Housing Authority, as all of you know, has been historically and under my tenure apolitical. We've tried to stay away from these kinds of conversations, but we know that it's been going on for a little bit now, and it's important, I think, for the council really to kind of understand the impact from a broader perspective. I know that the traditional paint that's been depicted is that we have private side developers that are going to positively be impacted by benefit, if you will, or profit from this particular initiative. But there is another impact that's not painted as clearly because we don't really talk about it that much. And I'm not going to go into the details for very good reason, but at some point I will if necessary. But the Housing Authority has, when we talk about rule changes, and that's what you guys do, the Housing Authority has historically been constrained from doing certain things. It's the nature of the federal regulations. The federal regulations have more recently, in the last 10 years, has been amended, has changed, that allows the housing authorities to actually create subsidiaries. And so throughout the country, housing authorities have moved into the 21st century by creating subsidiaries and not being so beholden to the federal government, to HUD. They've diversified their streams of revenue. They've created other programs that are not necessarily housing related. They've created workforce development programs. They've created self-sufficiency programs. They've created businesses, literally businesses, whether trash or property management or daycare. Our housing authority over the last 20 years has not been in the 21st century, if I can say that candidly, okay? My charge, among many by my board, is to bring the housing authority into the 21st century with my background. And so one of the things that we've done is we've created a subsidiary as part of the rule changes that we're allowed to do. And that subsidiary, of course, given our mission, is charged with creating affordable, quality housing, right? Developing affordable, quality housing. But our subsidiary is a different kind of entity than the Housing Authority. And so what we've been doing, and I'm going to be very broad in the way that I'm characterizing this, is that we've been creating a program. Excuse me, and let
me
That's
just
okay.
say this, I generally
do
don't
I have
put
a time
I
limit?
generally don't put a time limit
I'm
on
sorry,
anyone, but
I-
I know we have quite a few people here
I
this evening, and
apologize.
I think everyone wants to speak.
Yeah.
I know my council members are looking at me saying, why the 2-minute today? But
Yeah.
there's a variety of people who are here tonight that would like to talk to council or speak to council on issues, so that's why I put the time limit on.
Madam President, I apologize.
That's
You-
all right.
You have an
No, that's
attorney
fine.
standing up here, so
That's
I'll go
fine.
on for another 2
Finish.
hours if you don't shut me down.
Okay.
Okay?
Finish
All right.
your.
Let me be very quick. So the program essentially is this, in a very quick nutshell, and that is the Housing Authority wants to go into these dilapidated areas, these areas that have not been, quite frankly, burdens of growth, and acquire the properties, let's say 50, I'm just going to use a round number, 50 properties, build those properties using our funds, our defederalized funds, taking the program into a workforce development program arena. So we'll use our residents to train them, get them to do the work, to fix the homes up, to remodel the homes, actually add value to the neighborhood, create obviously a relationship between our workforce and us, then ultimately lease these homes back to affordable, low-income residents. Okay? It's a longer conversation, but LRTA allows us then, when we do the lease to purchase, to not pass the property taxes on to the purchaser.
Okay.
Okay? So we support this initiative, and we hope that the council does as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you leave the mic, would you please give your address? You did not give your address.
Sure. 351 Chestnut Street is our
Okay.
formal address.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else to my right?
Hello, I'm Angela Kirkland. My address is 2311 North Front Street. Good evening, Council, President Williams, Mr. Baltimore. We'd like to thank you for this time to engage with our elected representatives and the people of Harrisburg. We are a group of Harrisburg locals engaged in the Black Lives Matter movement. We are here to express grief at the slaying of the unarmed people of color and murders of police officers in New York City, and hope for a future in Harrisburg that is built upon the cooperation of its people, representatives, and law enforcement community to ensure that no further such tragedy and injustice persists in our city. We are very happy to receive the cooperation and invitation to speak with various officials already, but we'd also like to ensure a direct voice of all people of Harrisburg in these conversations. This is an invitation to all Harrisburgers, Uptown, Midtown Hillside, Southside, and Shipoke, and its representatives to partner with us. We are This Stops Today Harrisburg, and we are here to bridge the gap of communication and make certain systemic racial bias stops today. To this end, tonight we would like to present a list of common sense proposals to foster a climate of equality, justice, and accountability for all of Harrisburg. Some proposals we have discussed include implementation of a civilian review board, review and reform of HPD's use of deadly force, and the appointment of a special prosecutor to strengthen the public's trust in the judicial process. We at This Stops Today Harrisburg would like to acknowledge the HPD's ongoing efforts to address many of these issues already. We would also like to commend, in particular, Police Chief Thomas Carter, Community Policing Liaison David Botero, and the Community Responders Network in creating a transparent, democratic process of redress that will ensure a partnership based in equality, fairness, and accountability. Join us, people of Harrisburg, in creating a better future.
Thank you very much. Anyone else to my right?
Good evening. My name is Tarte Castille, resident in Harrisburg, minority contractor in the city,
Did you give your address, please, Tart?
2335 Dairy Street. I wanted to talk, piggyback off Mr. Singor Man about the LRTA. I think time is of the essence on this LRTA bill because, you know, right now, the minority contractors in the city, they're basically relying on this LRTA to pass where a lot of us can get some work and start working on a lot of this blighted property in the city. And I think 2015, if we don't, you know, get this vote passed, we're gonna be sitting around doing nothing, and a lot of them, you know, a lot of guys that I have are ex-offenders. And, you know, when ex-offenders aren't doing anything, they're gonna commit crime. So I think this stuff needs to be addressed right away. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else to my right, please come to the mic.
Good evening. My name is Mr. Boyd. I'm an advocate for the true community of Harrisburg. As I say, I like to have a good laugh, and I'm very humorous myself at times. I've heard things just a couple minutes ago that we have said years ago. Our city, first of all, we need employment, number one. Up jumped the devil. Now they talk about they're interested in employing people of the great city. But what about the nonprofits of the city? What about the nonprofits? What do we truly get from the city? 7 that sit here on this council, I have seen them for years. I still say the same thing, and I'll say it until I have to leave this earth. What are you doing for us? And I can say that because I'm one of the ones that's under bridges, sleep with the homeless, and then I come here and look at you when I hear about a 10-year tax abatement, when the woman that's living in her own property, getting ready to lose her property, but this council and this administration will say this: it's good for the city. That's true, but not right now. We are a third-class city. They seem to keep forgetting that. But then again, I'm just a man on the street. I have no effect in this community, as some of you say. But once again, I'd like to say I commend the Honorable Mayor, I commend Mr. Baltimore, and the Honorable President of City Council, and the one that's not here this evening. But I say one great thing about our city: unification is the greatest thing we could ever have. I don't understand why police now are doubling up. That's amazing to me. When I walk on the street and what I see in the street, the city of Harrisburg, why double up? You got it going on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else to my right, please? Yes, please come to the mic.
Madam President?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am. Happy holidays to you all.
Same here.
Those of the City Council whom I'm not familiar with, greetings to you. Those whom I am familiar with, it's a pleasure seeing you again, and I wish you happy holidays. And I apologize that I didn't have a chance to send you all Christmas cards. I've been kind of busy baking cookies.
We'll take a quick-
My name is Perry Thompson. I reside at 136 North 13th Street. I wanted to share with you all a brief history lesson, and I realized I only have 2 minutes, so I'll really make it brief. And I wanted to just kind of harp on the point that people say that we live in uptown, or we live in here, or we live in there, or that we're all Harrisburgers, but the city of Harrisburg happens to be in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, so we're all Pennsylvanians too. And then the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania happens to be in this one country called the United States of America. And this one country called the United States of America happens to be on this one little planet that's just this little blue ball that's just floating through space. And it kind of makes us all humans. And so we're all humans as well. And I'm in the course of making little cookies, I made some little gingerbread men. They're little cute little gingerbread men. I designed them with some white chocolate and butter frosting and powdered sugar, lots of butter, But some of them are, a little bit lighter. And some of them are a little bit golden. And some of them are a little bit darker. And some people at the farmers markets that I've been selling at have asked me, so why are your cookies all different colors? Or did you mean to do that? And I said, well, yeah, the Creator made us all that way. And that's one of the things I just wanted to share with all of us, that we were all made that way by the Creator. We're all just little cookies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please come.
Good evening,
Good
City
evening.
Council. I'm Chris Cenic, live on 232 Minnick Street, and I just want to say that, like, with the Black Lives Matter campaign, the Los Angeles Police Department just has authorized a civilian review board to go up into effect, and I feel that Harrisburg City can also follow in that example. New York City also has one too. And while I'm on camera and on the microphone, I'd like to condemn the CIA's use of torture, and there's that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anyone else to my right, please? Anyone in the middle? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Thank you. Alan Kennedy Schaefer, 252 Verbeck Street. I just wanted to briefly say that our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the 2 New York City Police Department officers who were assassinated on Saturday. Just as our thoughts and prayers are with the families of Eric Garner and Michael Brown and others. Unfortunately, here in Harrisburg, we have to send our thoughts and prayers to the family of Mr. Porter, Harrisburg's 17th homicide this year. There's still more work to do. I commend the mayor, the police chief, our fine officers in the police department in Harrisburg for doing a professional job. Unfortunately, our work is not yet done. And so hopefully we will have a brighter 2015. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, is there anyone else to my right that would like to come to the mic? In the middle, please.
Honored council members, Jeremy Domenico, 160 South Summit Street. In the interest of Christmas, I wrote y'all a little poem. 'Twas 2 days before Christmas, and we all met for one thing, to pass the city's budget before those Christmas bells ring. We all have so much passion for our city once so great, and each of us brings something to this city's plate. So in the interest of good tidings, the list has been checked twice. Let's have passions and personalities, and let's try to be nice. We all share one purpose, one city, our Harrisburg to save. And for the sake of our city, let's reward those for who gave. The mayor and the city, we need Catherine, it's true. She's worth every penny, and that's between me and you. And Mr. Bruce Weber, dedicated to the core, what he did with just a team of 4. All the city workers, man, we owe you such a debt. Your dedication to the city, it hasn't been rewarded yet, but it will be. The police and the firemen, they're all the heroes. Who did we play as a kid? Mr. Botero's job, his safety, if we only knew what he did. Mrs. Davis, you ask Amir Pittens, I don't see her here. Probably long overdue, and I hope this honorable council has some holiday gifts for you. She's not here. And speaking of this honorable council, your work is truly unsung. I speak for many when I give thanks for all the work that you've done. So in the spirit of the holidays, for the city, the people, our heart, please grant what is needed so we can all do our part. Thank you. Have a great holiday.
You too. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I'm Daniel D. Graham, 217 North 2nd Street here in Harrisburg. And I agree with Alan Kennedy Schaefer, our thoughts and prayers to God for all of it, for not only the New York police officers, but for the police officers and their families here in Harrisburg and other cities. Our police are doing a great job, but from what I've heard, they're shorthanded. We need more police officers, and as I understand, the proposed budget calls for hiring more police officers and firefighters. That's good. Let's hire as many police and firemen as the budget will allow. And again, we need more police officers and security guards patrolling on North 2nd Street, downtown, as well as other areas of the city, especially Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Another issue I want to bring to your attention here, as I said before, this new parking area for Amtrak train passengers on the other side of the Amtrak station. I understood that was supposed to be free parking here, but now I have an announcement that I got in Strawberry Square. This transit park, it says here, this transit park, they make a charge of $7 per day, $1.25 per hour, but a maximum of $7 per day, and $40 per month. I'll leave this here, you can read it. It says discounts for Amtrak riders. It doesn't say how much, but I think it should be free parking for Amtrak train passengers and intercity bus passengers too. And also an overhead pedestrian walkway to go from the parking area right into the train station, so that people will not have to walk on Market Street and through the underpass in order to get to the train station. But this is a good start. I will leave this here for you, for anyone who wants to look at it here.
Mr. Graham.
Okay. Thank you much for your attention. God bless. Have a Merry Christmas. Christ the Lord is come. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, and Merry Christmas to all of you. My name is Malcolm Jackson, 900 Forster Street, and I'm here representing this evening AKM Partners. We are a residential development firm, general contracting firm, and construction firm. Here with representing our partners and our investors, who are a great group of people who have a vested interest in Harrisburg and the surrounding areas overall. And I'm here to, I guess, piggyback now on Tariq's comments and Sangor's comments about the impact that the potential LRTA could have for us. As we look at our table on a weekly basis, we look at a great number of projects that we could enter into, and also at the progress of the ones that we're in and the ones that are being completed. And so looking at Harrisburg as a whole, we all understand that it's a regional economy. And that kind of hits a personal note for me because I'm originally from Steelton. And so knowing that our next door neighbor, Harrisburg, is in a position where it has a critical choice to make. Incentivizing developers like myself, young developers like myself, in a way that can help jumpstart our activity here, help us realize our dreams, both on a professional and personal level. But in addition to that, the regional impact that growth here in Harrisburg, the capital city, could have on my hometown of Steelton and other surrounding areas, which would encompass basically my entire family. So I'm here to lay out a couple simple numbers for you. And so we're looking at currently 5 projects here within the city limits, ranging from $2 million to about $30 million of investment. There are a good number of ways that we get that money to the table. Our local guys, they leverage their current real estate holdings. They bring a little bit of cash to the table. And through the resources that all of our partners bring to the table, we're looking at foreign investment, EB-5 money, all those sorts of things. And what we like about the LRTA process is not so much the incentive to save dollars, it's what we can do with that savings.
Okay.
Our intentions are a lot the same as the Housing Authority, to employ local people, empower them, and to move forward to propel that to better build a relationship with folks and boards like yourself. So,
Thank you.
Madam President, Mr. Board, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the middle?
Good evening, Council. Les Ford, 2033 Bellevue Road. The best of the holidays to you. I rise to speak in favor of the LRTA resolution that will come before you tonight, Resolution 140 of 2014. I didn't start out necessarily in favor of LRTA, but as I mentioned at the last committee meeting, I have watched this process go on for months, and I have let that process influence my thinking. I've also let observations concerning what is happening in the surrounding area influence my thinking. I have let our recent history influence our thinking. Our recent history encompasses some projects in the city that really went south and were done under the auspices of economic development. Our history also includes some projects that went well, but our recent history gives us just that, some lessons. So LRTA in and of itself is not going to be a magic bullet. A well-managed LRTA process, I think, will help to kickstart our local economy. So I did not start out necessarily in favor of this particular LRTA bill. Indeed, I can't even say I know all of the details of the last iteration of it. But I can say that I have been impressed with the process. I have been impressed with the synthesis that has happened as a result of various people with various positions coming together and discussing this. So based on that, I have moved. And I hope council has moved, because when you look at what is happening in the surrounding area, development is taking place, and we must be in a competitive position in order to have some of that development happen in our city. And I will say that this plan, in all probability, is not perfect, but few things are. And the perfect is the enemy of the good.
Okay.
So I do not want us to sit by for another year and miss an opportunity to build a head of steam for the economic development of this city. We have been drifting. We have been absorbing changes that were dictated to us over the course of the last 6 years. And then with the development or the imposition of the recovery plan, we have simply been in a position of absorbing changes, such as parking, such as the Harrisburg
Mr.
Authority
Ford,
being sold off. But this is an opportunity to establish a direction and build a head of steam to move this community ahead in that direction. And I think it is incumbent upon us to seize that opportunity and to manage it ongoing as best we can and be responsible to the people of this city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron Chappell, 3rd Street, Harrisburg. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Respectfully disagreeing first with my good friend Les Ford. When we talk about things that will be good for the city, immediately comes to mind this Restaurant Row that Mayor Reed used to like to tout. Now, here was a group of investors that came in that were given a multi-year tax abatement, and many of them investors still owe us money. And what they did hiring from without the city. Many city residents walked by them places not being able to get jobs there. When we speak of this LRTA project, I want to bring one word to mind: gentrification. Okay, this has been happening throughout this country, you know, especially in these major urban areas, you know. And then again, are we in a position where we can just grant someone, some outside developer, a 10-year tax abatement? I mean, what makes us so generous and why? You know, I don't think that it's time for this plan. You know, it also comes to mind that recently in the last citywide election, a lot of outside developers and investors made substantial campaign contributions. Now, wait a minute. There's someone at the door. Who is it? It's investors. These outside developers. Are we saying now that we should give them a Christmas present of a 10-year tax abatement at the expense of residents who face high unemployment in this city? Now, I don't think it's the time for it. You know, I think that this vote should be tabled, or maybe people should think long and hard about what they're about to give away. We've given away the parking. Now it appears that people, because of their campaign contributions, are trying to trade that in for ownership of this city. Okay. Now is not the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just, maybe everyone's under the impression that Resolution 140 of 2014 is LRTA. It is not. It's just the guidelines. It supports the responsible contractor and developer guidelines. It's not LRTA.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Okay, no, not only you, but for the other gentlemen who came up and spoke on behalf of LRTA, I did not put LRTA on the agenda. If the council so chooses to try to bring it up from the floor, they may, but I did not put LRTA on the agenda tonight. Okay?
Thank you, Madam President,
welcome.
but I think my statements stand for themselves on their own merit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to try to talk fast. I see you have a lot of people. I don't talk. My name is Robert Kennedy, Chairman of Faith-Based Committee, Dauphin County. My phone number 877-9943. Chair, I'm throwing on the Robert Kennedy. Me know say hi no tatayan I talked to the city council. I'm not going to say a lot because all you got to do is check my videos, and I give you some quotes in the newspaper about coming together, about the community coming together. And I spoke about a pilot program that we wanted to initiate because Harrisburg is the capital of the state. Dauphin County has an initiative called BARGE, Balance and Restore Justice. Dauphin County has a system of care. You guys have the committee meeting. We're so unique here in Dauphin County, we could start a pilot program and get the attention of the nation. I asked the mayor and many people to talk to me or meet with me. We didn't get a chance to do it yet. So I'm not going to talk too much about Dauphin County. I want to get back down to the community and to a Robert candidate, because the county doors are closed now. So I'm not going to represent or talk with them, okay? And I told you about a new program that I connected with my veterans called Save the American Youth /VetNet. Now, VetNet is a form of veterans and our frontline soldiers, which is the police department, okay? That's what VetNet is all about, connecting. I asked the people in the community to understand your government, understand your level of your government. I explained to the people the things we're doing, and that everybody's bending over back. We have our state representative here. She's at every meeting. I oversee the operation for Dauphin County System of Care. All the events. She was at LaShawn McCarr Day. She was at the Farm Show Monday. Every event I go to, she's there. She's not a representative that sit back in her office and send her staff out. She's there. Now, Monday I cried because, as you know, I've been registered people. I had over 8,000 people there, families. And as I looked at those people struggling, mothers struggling to get anything for their kids, and I thought in my mind, you know what? And I want to say this: politicians and politics produces poverty, and poverty produces problem. The reason I cried because once those people leave money and go out and try as hard as they can because of the policies we have in place that is not transparent, it's used against them. They end up on welfare and the public talks about them. I won't say too much about that. Okay. I asked about everybody supporting my leadership program this year. I am going to have a leadership program this year. Last year I didn't have it because I had to get some clearance from the military because I have classified clearance, okay? So this year, leadership program, again, let me just mention newspaper because you don't have to. First of all, Google the 82nd Airborne Special Operation Elite Rapid Deployment Force. That's where I got my training. That's who I was a part of. Okay. But in 1990, I put in for a $20,000 grant.
Could you your time is over. Could you bring that to a conclusion, please?
Yeah. In 1990, I put in for a grant for Robert Casey to focus on hate groups, occult organization, organized crime. Today, I don't have to say more. Read the news.
All right, thank you,
Read the
sir.
news, okay?
Thank you. We just want to be respectful to others who would like to speak, sir. That's why I put a 2-minute time period on comments today.
Thank you. I rise to respectfully ask City Council to allow a vote on the LRTA bill tonight. I think it's important that we meet our self-imposed deadline of doing this by the end of the year. We made representations to the county and the school district that we would accomplish this over the course of the year, and I think it's been a very good process, one that, as Mr. Ford has noted, has, I think, changed minds. And over the course of that process, Council has approved the bill through a series of proposed amendments, and we have incorporated feedback repeatedly from the community. Mr. Chappell, I'm not sure if you know, but the bill as written includes a requirement that in order to get LRTA at all for new construction, you have to hire Harrisburg City residents. That's precedent setting. It's never been tried before in the Commonwealth. The eyes of the Commonwealth are watching us here tonight. We have the votes to pass the bill tonight, to table it, and not allow an up or down vote, I think does a great disservice to the process, to the other taxing parties who have been our partners all along.
Mayor, it's not tabled. I didn't put it on the agenda. It's not even on the agenda.
Well, to not allow a vote.
And I did not table that. So I just want to make sure that you understand that it's not on the agenda, and I did not table it.
I would ask that council vote on LRTA tonight. The city needs
Okay.
the jobs. We need the economic opportunity. It's part of our economic development strategy for the new year. Now is the time to do it. It'd be a Christmas gift to all the residents of this city. Thank you.
Anyone else from the middle? Anyone to my left? Council members, please.
Hey, I get to follow the mayor. I'm Bill Cluck. I'm the chairman of the City of Harrisburg's Environmental Advisory Council. I speak as an individual resident tonight. I do not speak on behalf of the EAC, but I'm going to talk about the EAC. First, Chairman Ben, thank you. I think you did a wonderful job chairing the budget hearings. In my lifetime, imagine dozens of people reading the city budget and participating in the process and the give and take over the single most important activity that this city council does, passing the budget. Instead, I don't know what it's going to take. Is it civics or whatever? I don't want to waste my time. The EAC was established by an ordinance of the city of Harrisburg. Our purpose, we have the power to identify, discuss, and disseminate information on environmental issues and problems, recommend sustainable plans and programs for the promotion and conservation of the natural resources and for the protection and improvement of the quality of the environment within the city, and provide a forum to discuss environmental issues in the city. We are independent. We are not a department of the administration. Half of us are appointed by council, half are appointed by the mayor with confirmation by council. We would like to work in collaboration with council and the administration. We would like to work together on issues of concern. However, issues have not been coming to us. We have been the ones trying to raise issues. I believe as a result, the proposed use of the host fund, which is very near and dear to my heart, excluded anything the EAC had an interest in. And I hope in the future we work collaboratively in the budgetary process to work with the EAC to identify how $300,000 should be used for environmental projects. May I suggest that you amend the host municipality benefit fee budget for the following programs. The Harrisburg Housing Authority Summer Jobs Program. Last year, the host fund, $35,000 was used. $1,000 stipend for 25 teenagers plus $10,000 for administrative costs. That program was very successful. I recommend doubling that, 50 teenagers at $1,000 a pop, but the same $10,000 for administrative costs. It shouldn't cost any more to administer. Thank you for approving the funding of the arborist provision. However, that person, when hired, and we're now advertising, and if anybody's interested, the city's hiring an arborist, they need a budget to work with. And your city ordinances say that senior citizens with trees on their property do not have to pay for the maintenance of those trees. That's good, but somebody has to pay for that. My hope is when we hire the arborist, that we take the Penn State Urban Tree Inventory and identify the diseased and dead trees in the city, and if they match up on properties of senior citizens, allocate up to $50,000 from the host fund to assist the arborist and reimburse public works expenses in order to perform that. And finally, some money so we can advertise our meetings. Thank
Okay.
you. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you as well. Anyone else from the left? Hearing none, moving on with the agenda. Approval of minutes, approval of the legislative session minutes of December 9, 2014. Are there any omissions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, have a vote.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Minutes approved as stand. Moving on to reports of committees. Report from Chair Allett on the Budget and Finance Committee meetings of December 10th, 2014, and December 17th of 2014. Mr. Allett, are you ready with your report?
I am, thank you. We had two budget hearings that occurred on December 10th and December 17th, and just have a few statements to make. They were lengthy. I will not recount everything we talked about in the first 4-hour meeting and the second 3-hour meeting that we had. However, some highlights that I want to point out for members of the public to both know and to understand. I would like to applaud the efforts that our collective elected offices have made over the last year and the strides that we've made to, in a post-recession era, and to have a balanced budget. And we do have a balanced budget as we finish off 2014, and that's a great thing. We also have, right now, as it stands tonight, a proposed balanced budget for 2015. You know, that is an important distinction for us to be able to note, and I appreciate the partnership that has gone into that effort. Also want to point out that this particular proposed budget took a lot of work from the various department heads throughout the city. They had a hand in it. They worked hard to review their numbers, to make proposed numbers to the mayor, to work with the mayor and his administration in order to get that information in there and correct and reflect what they could live and work with for 2015. I'd like to point out that in no way are we in a rosy, wonderful picture in 2015. We are still lean. We are still in a situation where we need to be careful about our spending and work hard to do that, to make sure we are offering the best services we can within the means that we have. And I think that we are committed to doing that, both on council and in working with the administration. Tonight you will see a series of amendments that we proposed, both from the administration and also from council. How this will work, we will read each amendment. We will vote up or down on that individual amendment. Once that process has been done, we will actually take a brief recess to make sure that we still have a balanced budget prior to coming back and voting on the budget as a whole. So that process will take hold, and you'll see momentarily. Also wanted to note that at our last budget hearing, we did discuss Resolution 137, which was the 5th proposed 2014 budget reallocation. Just to highlight that for you all tonight, this was a basically just a movement of funds to cover both, I guess, salaries and overtime, extra duty, and therefore they wanted to do a budget reallocation to make sure the budget remained in balance. And so that is something that we'll vote on, and I'm obviously in favor in recommending that vote tonight.
Okay.
That concludes my notes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Allett. Moving on to report from Chair Kablinski on Community Economic Development Committee meeting on December 15, 2014. Mr. Kablinski, are you ready with your report?
I am, Madam President.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Community and Economic Development Committee met on December 15th. This was the third meeting that we had discussing the LERTA, or tax abatement bill for a 10-year tax abatement on various properties within the city for development. President, along with myself, were President Williams and councilpersons Daniels and Baltimore. This was a meeting that we decided to have in the public arena, so to speak. We've had two meetings here in this building. We decided to take it on the road, and we went to the Public Works building over at 18th and Paxton Street. We had a nice group of folks come out and let their voice be heard. The mayor presented the benefits of the bill. Questions were taken and by council members, and a couple amendments were put forth to continuing dialogue to make the bill better. And we did make some amendments that we weren't sure got us there, and actually had the language that some members were looking for. And so we're continuing to talk about those with the legal department. And accordingly, it is not on the agenda this evening, although it may be brought from the floor. That's my report. Thank you,
Okay.
Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. Report from Ms. Daniels on the Public Works Committee meetings of December 22nd, 2014. Ms. Daniels, are you ready with your report?
Yes, Madam President.
Thank you.
Yesterday, the Public Works Department had a meeting at the Public Works facility on December 22nd. The meeting was chaired by myself, as Ms. Reed was unavailable due to her illness. And present were also Councilperson Baltimore and Council President Williams. We discussed 3 issues. The first one was the sinkhole on 14th Street and the status of that sinkhole and the steps that the city is taking to redress those concerns. The important things to take away from there are that there are 3 upcoming deadlines that residents should be attentive to. The first one is the December 31st deadline. If residents of the affected areas are interested in a tax abatement from the county, the deadline is the 31st to submit that application. On January 6th and January 7th, the city will also have a meeting for all of the property owners of the impacted areas so that they can submit forms to support the city's application for a PEMA/FEMA grant that the city will have to submit in order to receive funds. And that's a second source of funding. And at the later point, there is no deadline to this at this point yet, but there will be a third source of funds from FEMA at the later point in time. Regarding the sinkhole, we also discussed proactively addressing the issues related to parking for the residents who are in the area, as they currently have to park in areas and at the moment have to receive tickets and then have to, in a haphazard way, redress those. So we discussed options in addressing those concerns. So that was generally the discussion around the 14th Street sinkhole. We also discussed for those who are not in the area that is immediately in disrepair, to consistently communicate with the city so that the areas that are surrounding that region, we can become aware of increasing vulnerabilities in the areas that are adjacent to the area that's immediately impacted. In addition to that sinkhole discussion, we also discussed 2 resolutions. The first one is Resolution 132-2014. Which is a resolution approving the Department of Environmental Protection Municipal Recycling Program grant agreement for $250,000 for the purchase of a leaf collector and rear load packer recycling truck. I will ask my colleagues to support that resolution, as it will facilitate the city's ability to begin its recycling program more effectively. The second resolution is 133-2014, which is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Viewpoint Government Solutions, Inc. of Boston, Massachusetts, to develop, deploy, and maintain view permit software for the city's street cut, road closure, and crane permitting. I will also ask my colleagues to support that resolution. It is a resolution that allows us to enter into a contract with a software company. It's a more affordable contract. It also helps the city keep track of the street cuts that different utility companies and different construction actors need to keep maintaining. And at the current moment, as we learned yesterday, some of that work is being kept track of on paper. So adopting the new software technology will help us better supervise or better keep track of those the street cuts. So I would like to ask for the support for both of those resolutions, and that was the extent of the meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels. Moving on to ordinance for first reading, we have none this evening. Moving on to ordinance for amendment. Mr. Claiborne, please read Bill 19 into record.
Bill 19 was moved by Mr. Allett and seconded by Ms. Daniels. It is an ordinance establishing the budget for the municipal government of the city of Harrisburg for the year 2015.
At this point, I would like to get a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Allett?
Yes, actually, what I'd like to do first, I know the administration has the amendments, so I just want to make sure we go through them and we're all clear on what they are, and everyone up here is clear on what they are too. Mr. Weber, are you handling, or who's going to handle? And while we're gathering, Mr. Grover, for the amendments, just so I'm clear, will we be voting on the administration? Are we voting them on collectively? Or are we going to vote line by line in terms of how they're presented?
It was my understanding, Mr. Allott, my understanding was the council decided it was going to vote on the amendments one by one.
Okay, and I know that we're doing that for ours. I just want to make sure we're doing that for the administration soon. I'm fine with that.
It's frankly the council's call.
Okay, nope, we'll do it that way. That works. And now, Bruce, if you want to just take through and just highlight, I think, for us what each of the amendments are the administration's proposed.
Okay. This is nothing here that we hadn't introduced or discussed previously, so just want to make that clear that this is just a reiteration of what we had proposed previously. First, there was the increase in the deputy treasurer's salary from $68,000 to $72,000, which Mr. Spradley had spoken about last week. Same as the production tech manager salary from 45 to 48. There's an upgrade to the current streetlight foreman position to what a traffic manager and building maintenance supervisor, increasing his salary concurrent with new responsibilities from 45,760 to 57. That particular increase will be offset by a decrease in the building maintenance, essentially a budget line item, because we'll be insourcing some of that work. He's an electrician and master electrician and has a lot of skills that can be utilized more effectively than it currently has. We are also asking for 2 demolition specialist 1 positions, which will be added to actually have a full crew for demo work. That was actually left out of the budget first time unintentionally. That was sort of just an oversight there. Essentially, all those changes, outside of what I already mentioned with the change to the traffic manager and building maintenance supervisor, will be paid for by adding the interfund transfer back to what it had been traditionally over the last couple of years from the sanitation utility fund to the general fund. We're hoping to reduce that a little bit, but if we keep that at the same level we had for the last couple of years, we can afford to pay for the extra changes that I've just mentioned. And then there's also the street maintenance worker position, which we're going to pay for from the state liquid fuel tax fund. And to pay for that, we're going to decrease the equipment line item. That was a change that was suggested from Public Works, and felt that that was a fair trade-off, and they would rather reallocate in that direction than what they had originally proposed to us. So if you have a question more about why that was, I would ask Aaron or Dave to comment further. I don't have, that was given to us. And then there's also the one change, which is more just making things more explicit. It's not really a change. It's just there's been some resolutions that council passed for the host fee encumbrances that we just haven't expended yet this year. So just to make things more transparent for the public and for anybody else, we thought we would just put them on book essentially for 2015 and using the cash that's already available, it's already encumbered in 2014, to carry that forward to 2015. And that's where you see the consulting for the comprehensive plan, the reimbursement to Public Works for the truck liners for sanitation, purchase for the salt shelter, the Greenbelt payment, and then the playground cover. So,
Does anyone have any specific questions to Bruce right now for that? I just want to make sure we all knew exactly what we're voting on.
Bruce, how much is the comprehensive plan going to cost?
we are allocating overall 200,000.
Okay.
25 from the host fee, and then 175 from, all from the general fund? 100 from the.
And 75 is from the state PCD.
That's right, yeah.
Well, that's my question.
Mhm.
If it's from DCED, then
Right, that money will be returned to us via the general fund. So it's 100 from taxpayers and 75 from return of money from the parking transaction that was unexpended by the creation of the impact nonprofits.
Well, that's why I questioned that, because the other night we were here, you indicated that there was another fund that we were not aware of, that Pinnacle Health had given you money. You indicated that you were taking 100,000 from there for the comprehensive plan. So what's the cost? 175 or?
Right, so the two sources to get that revenue, right?
So
One
that's
was from the
175.
reimbursement or the return of the money from the impact Harrisburg that was not used. And then another 100 from what's called the Special Projects Infrastructure Fund, which was it's a balance sheet item that we did sort of discover as we were going through the financial structure of the city, which was a very old grant from DECD that was then turned around and loaned to Penn National, and they have been paying that back regularly. And so over time, that fund has accrued money. So, and when we found that out, we had conversation with DECD. There's some constraints on how that can be used. They can't use it for personnel, for example. So we said, oh, well, let's take that, and since it's available, and use that to help fund the comprehensive plan. It's a development thing. It seemed somewhat of a relationship to what a DECD's mission would be. They thought that would be okay to do, and so that's where we're essentially finding the money for that from.
So we're taking 100,000 from there, 175?
No, just 75
Oh,
from
just
impact,
75
and then
impact.
25 from the host fee, 200,000.
Okay, and then DCED with 100,000. Okay.
Very good. Any other questions about?
Nope.
Are we good? Okay, Mr. Grover, the only other question I had, am I making a motion for each of these amendments? as
Yeah,
they come
and we
up?
have to do them carefully, and the explanation is very helpful. Actually, we have to do it fairly carefully and read in as they're doing the line items that are changing here, what is being added to and what is being subtracted from for each of those changes.
Okay, so I should read directly right from here as each?
I would,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Those are all the questions that I have. Do you have a motion to go back in? Is that?
Okay. All right. Are we doing anything on the city council amendments? You want any questions on that before we go back into session?
That's no good. I'll read that based on the line item too.
So no one has questions? You don't want to address that? You want to go do that next, or how do you want to do that?
No, fine. We can go back in and vote on all of them. I mean, we talked about it in caucus, so.
Okay, but there may be questions.
Madam President, I think we do need to talk about the event that Ms. Reed is not here.
Oh, yeah, what does a tie vote do?
It actually makes it fairly complicated, unfortunately.
It dies.
What's that?
It dies. It should die. It's
What-
not in favor or of.
Well, here's what the third-class city code says, section 418, is when you are amending, you need a majority of the council, which is 4, in order to decrease a mayoral budget. It then says that you need, and actually, the language actually says, but an increase in any item or items therein shall become effective only upon an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members of council. And it uses a different phrase. It says the members of council. The only authority we can find is a Supreme Court decision from 1982 that defines members of council, 2/3 of members. Actually, it only defines 2/3 of the members. It doesn't even use the words of council in that decision to mean of the whole council, which would mean you need 5 votes for increases and 4 votes for decreases.
But why would you need 4 for a decrease and 5 for an increase? Is that
Because
a
there's-
statute?
Yeah, that's
Can we see that?
Sure, it's what we emailed to everybody previously.
And of course, we're not attorneys up here, except Mr. Kablinski and Ms. Daniels. Excuse me, Ms. Wilson, it wasn't emailed to me, and I was speaking to Mr. Grover. Well, yes, I was speaking to Mr. Grover. Ms. Wilson, please, if you have anything to say, please wait.
No, I don't have to.
Yes, you do, and you can be excused too.
I can.
You can be excused too. You can be taken out as well.
You think so? Today won't be a good day.
Well, if you continue, we'll have you taken out. Mr. Carter, please do your job. If she continues, because she's disrupting the meeting, and she has to be escorted out if she disrupts the meeting.
Madam President, the last sentence of this provision. Council may reduce any item or items in the mayor's budget by a vote of the majority of the council, but increases in any item or items therein shall become effective on an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members of council, as opposed to the majority of council.
Okay.
So the only interpretation that we have, the guidance from the court, is that that means 2/3 of the entire body. So it means 5 votes for up. Otherwise, it would make them identical. And there would be a reason for 2 sentences.
Okay. That's- Okay. Because that's what I'm saying, is there anything that states?
So, I mean, if me taking interpretation of members present constitutes that 2/3 majority of that.
So it should be 2/3 of who's present and not, because
That's what we're trying to figure
we're
out.
just, that's what I just,
The only case talks about that it wasn't the members present who will veto third-class city mayor council plan A, where they said it couldn't mean that because you could effectively have less members vote to override a veto than had to vote to approve the budget, because you could have less presence. So their interpretation is it can't mean the phrase 2/3 of the members can't mean of the members present, because you could do a veto with less than. So the
Okay, but-
interpretation.
March. Okay, okay. Well, that doesn't seem right, since there's only 6 of us here.
I thought it makes it,
It doesn't seem right to me. I mean, I know that says, but it doesn't justify about if it's only 6 members here.
look, it's, we went through the case law. That's the only guidance we have. You were the chair. I will tell you, I mean, that's.
I respect your position, Mr. Grover, as the solicitor for the city of Harrisburg, but I think that's why we should have our own solicitor on board to give us legal advice as well, if we have a question concerning an ordinance or a statute.
I think you know I concur with that. I think
Okay.
that would be a helpful
Okay.
position in the
Okay.
future, so.
Because it doesn't specify if one member is missing, then what is the required vote?
And many things in the law are unclear. The only case we have to go on is from the Supreme Court in the same exact statute.
Mhm.
And it interpreted 2/3 of the members to mean of the entire council, not the entire council present.
Okay.
That was the only case we have.
Yeah, it doesn't
Would they rule
specify.
the same way under this subsection as they did
Mhm.
under the other subsection? We don't know. But the only guidance I have from the court,
Okay,
and I don't believe I can override what their ruling was, so.
okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Allett, do you want to vote on this and or discuss this before we vote on both packages of the amendments?
I don't have any other discussion. I mean, I'm fine if my colleagues are going through and voting down the line on
Okay,
both amendments.
we'll vote on this, and then we'll go to vote on this line by line as well.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
doing everything line by line.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's fine. Mr. Claiborne, page 2. Oh, okay. Have a motion to go back into session, please?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. Thank you. We're back in session. Mr. Claiborne, please start from the amendments to the 2015 that the administration has proposed.
Okay.
You can just read them individually.
So we're starting with page 31, right? 34.
Yep, and just read it, and then I'll.
Read it into Record 48.
So wait.
No, he needs to read in records to city clerk so that we can vote on it. Okay.
What are you calling this, the second number, subline?
So there's the.
You have two sets of numbers. What do you call it?
Budget unit and line item?
Budget unit is the first one?
Yes, and line item.
Okay. So I think you should say for each one, budget unit, give it the number. Line item, give it the number.
Okay,
Will
so
the line item be different for specific to each thing, so it doesn't matter what the budget unit is?
I don't know what you mean.
If he just says line item 398027, it will be clear what it is without referring to the,
Yes.
so just use the line item.
Okay.
If we just say this number.
Probably be easier if you want to read it into record and just, let him read into record and you identify the change. Do you want to do that? I think it would be easier. Yeah, Ben.
Okay.
Right. And please just put the figures on the side.
I'm gonna read them.
Okay.
Second number, fine. Second column.
Second column, and you might want to refer to the category name.
Okay. The first amendment we will bring to a vote is a amendment from line item 398027 from the Sanitation Utility Fund. It is a proposed increase of $100,000 to fund for 2 demolition specialist 1 positions.
Second.
And we need a second.
Any questions or comments?
Oh, any questions or comments? If not,
We're starting with, excuse me, maybe, council members, please look at your attachment. Mr. Allett is reading from the amendments for the, proposed by the administration. We're going line by line, okay? Any questions or comments, he indicated? No. Okay.
we can go to a vote.
Okay, so the amendment to increase line item 398027 in the amount of $100,000.
Yes.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Vote passes.
Second proposed amendment is in the treasurer's office to increase the deputy treasurer's salary by $4,000. Line item affected 414000, salaries and wages, an increase of $4,000. Line item 419001, social security, increase of $306, for a total increase of $4,306. Can I get a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? If not,
Okay, the vote to increase Line item 414000, salaries and wages, 4,000, in the amount of 4,000. And line item 419001, line item social security, in the amount of $306. Mr. Allett?
No.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
No.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
No.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
So it died.
Amended fails, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Change my vote.
Proposed amendment from the Bureau of
Could I make
Sorry?
I was looking at the wrong thing. I'm sorry. I wasn't.
Okay.
But I understand what he's doing. Okay.
I continue. Proposed amendment from the Bureau of Communication. This is a proposed increase to increase the production tech manager salary by $3,000. Line item 414000, salaries and wages, increase of $3,000. 419001, social security, increase of $229.50. Can I get a second? Questions or comments? Proceed to vote.
Okay, the vote to increase line item 414000, salaries and wages, in the amount of 3,000, and line item 419001, line item social security, in the amount of $229.50. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Vote passes.
Amendment for the Bureau of Public Work Director's Office. Increased salary of traffic manager, building maintenance supervisor. Line 41400, salaries and wages, increase of $11,240. 419001, social security, increase of $859.86. And then a deduction to fund the raise for the position will be from line 425030, building maintenance, a deduction of $12,099.86. Questions or comments?
Second.
Oh, second, sorry. Now questions or comments? If none, proceed to vote.
Okay, so vote for the increase of line item 414000, salaries and wages, in the amount of $11,240. Line item 419001, line item social security, in the amount of $859.86. And then a decrease in line item 425030, the amount of $12,099.86. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Vote passes.
Proposed amendment for Public Works, Department of City Services, to add 2 demolition specialist 1 position, line 41400, salaries and wages, increase $82,153.94. 419001, social security, increase of $6,284.78. Can I get a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to vote.
All right, to increase line item 414000, salaries and wages, of budget unit 010606162, in the amount of $82,153.94, and line item 419001 in the same budget unit in the amount of $6,284.78. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Vote passes.
Proposed amendment from the State Liquid Fuels Tax Fund to add 1 street maintenance worker 1 and to fund the position. 414000, salaries and wages, an increase of $38,680.46. 419001, Social Security, an increase of $2,959.06. 453099, to fund the street maintenance, worker one position, a deduction of $41,639.52. Can I get a second? Questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to vote.
For Budget Unit 20062020, for line item 414000, salaries and wages, an increase in $38,680.46 to add to street maintenance worker one position. Increase in same budget unit for line item 419001, Social Security, in the amount of $2,959.06, and a decrease in the same budget unit, line item 453099, in the amount of $41,639.52. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Vote passes.
Proposed amendment for a host fees fund cash carryover affecting line 399099, estimated cash carryover of $144,500 in total revenue, approving a total expenditure affecting line 421030, entitled consulting for $25,000 for a comprehensive plan consultant charge. Line 425010, vehicular equipment, a resolution 94-2014 truck liner for $32,000. Line 452090, building and structure, resolution 94-2014 for salt shelter, expenditure of $55,000. Line 463000, matching share grants, $10,000 for resolution 59-2014 Greenbelt. Line 481001, general fund transfers of $22,500 for playground cover and reimbursing the general fund. Can I get a second? Second. Questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to vote.
Vote to amend budget unit host municipality fees fund 21212100, line item 399099, estimated cash carryover in the amount of $144,500, and for the appropriation of line item 421030, consulting in the amount of $25,000 based on resolution 94 of 2014, comprehensive plan consultant charge. Line item 425010, vehicular equipment in the amount of $32,000, resolution 94 truck liner. Line item 452090, building instruction other, in the amount of $55,000, resolution 94 of 2014 salt shelter. Line item 463000, matching share grants in the amount of $10,000 for resolution 59 of 2014 Greenbelt. And line item 481001, general fund transfers in the amount of $22,500 for resolution 53 of 2014 playground cover reimbursement in general fund. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Vote passes.
Final proposed from the administration from sanitation fund to add the funding for the 2 demolition special one positions. Line 399099, estimated cash carryover account, $100,000 increase. In terms of total revenue, line 481001, total expenditure from the general fund transfers of $100,000. Can I get a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to vote.
Okay, the vote to amend the sanitation fund, budget unit 27272700, line item 399099, estimated cash carryover in the amount of $100,000, and line in the same budget unit, line item 48100101, general fund transfers in the amount of $100,000 to fund 2 demolition specialist positions. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson? Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Amendment passes.
Okay. Going to do the city council amendments.
Proceeding to the city council amendments. I'll go ahead and read in the same fashion. if That's okay. First proposed amendment from the office of the mayor. I believe it's line 0102. A proposed amendment to reduce the salary of senior assistant to the mayor from $60,000 to $52,500. Can I get a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I proposed this amendment to the budget because it's a $15,000 raise. This is the only $15,000 raise in the total budget. All the other raises were well under $10,000. This individual is a really nice person. She has the expertise and skills and abilities for that job, but to give an individual $15,000 raise, and she has not been here but a year, is outrageous. We've asked for concessions from 3 unions in the city administration, and they are only going to get 1% raise, which will probably be only to the most $4,000 or $5,000, but that will be taken up by the fact that they now have a copay. So they're actually not getting a raise. I think it's unfair that we give an individual who's only been here a year $15,000. She is, as the mayor indicated, his assistant, but prior to that, in the former administration, this council would not increase any salaries in the mayor's office at all. They were adamant about not giving any type of salary whatsoever, whoever it was, and I just can't see it being a justice to the citizens as well as the employees to give a $15,000 raise. Now, I can understand if it's a promotion and she was doing extra duties or an extra job, as was indicated in several of the amendments the administration proposed earlier. This individual will still be doing the same type of work for the mayor. And the mayor indicated that the former administration had 4 individuals at a total of $250,000. Well, his individuals total $280,000. He has 4 individuals as well. And this council deleted one of the positions from the former mayor, so she only had 3 people working in her office. So I am a no vote for the for the salary of the senior assistant to the mayor. Or I'm a yes vote, I'm sorry, to reduce the salary.
I wanted to be clear on this
I'm
one. A
sorry.
yes vote will reduce the salary, just so everyone's clear about what they're
Okay,
voting for.
I'm a yes vote to not to have the salary reduced to the senior assistant.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to vote.
Okay, for budget unit 0102, Office of the Mayor, a reduction in salary for the senior assistant to the mayor from $60,000 to $52,500. $52,500. Mr. Allett?
No.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
No.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
It passes.
Mr. Allett.
We have a proposed amendment for the Bureau of Financial Management, line item 0112, proposed to increase the salary of the senior grants manager from $55,000 to $57,500. Can I get a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just so for full understanding and disclosure of what you're doing, council sets the salary that is available. The law makes very clear that the administration actually sets the salary of the person within the budget that is approved. So just so you know. I mean, if you increase it, what that does is authorizes the administration to pay up to that sum,
Correct.
but it does not raise it to that sum. And I just think it's fair to the public and fair to council to know, and to the administration to know, that is what that vote means when you do an increase. Because the
Where's it
salaries,
at?
excuse me?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just, that is how, because the administrative functions are different from the legislative.
I
You
understand.
set the overall budget, and the administration sets the actual salaries within the budget that you have approved.
Sure.
So,
But we are authorized under the legislative body to do an increase or decrease.
that's right, in a line item.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sure. And this is a line item, so this is why, explain to the public that this is why we are doing amendments to some of the budget.
Understood. I just wanted to be
Okay.
fair to council that
Okay.
they understand the effect of the vote.
All right,
So,
thank you.
Other questions or comments? Proceed to vote.
In the Bureau of Financial Management, Budget Unit 0112, to increase the salary of the grants manager from $55,000 to $57,500. Mr. Allett,
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore,
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski,
Yes.
Ms. Reed, Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Amendment passes.
Proposed amendment for the Bureau of Human Resources, line item 0117, proposal to increase the salary of the Director of Human Resources from $60,000 a year to $70,000 a year. Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to vote.
In Budget Unit 0117, Human Resources, increase of salary of the Director of Human Resources from $60,000 to $70,000. Mr. Allett,
No.
Mr. Baltimore,
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski,
Yes.
Ms. Reed, Ms. Wilson,
No.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
fails.
Amendment fails.
Proposed amendment for the Bureau of Business Development, line item 0139, decrease the salary of Business Development LERTA Administrator from $70,000 a year to $55,000 a year.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Mr. Claiborne, you said that failed? It increased the salary, I think they passed. It says to increase, not decrease.
We need 5.
You need the 5 votes to increase.
Oh, okay, okay. That's right, to increase, you said 5, and to decrease, you need 4. Okay.
I'll repeat, the proposed amendment for the Bureau of Business Development.
apologize.
Oh, that's right. Line item 0139, proposal to decrease the salary budgeted for the Business Development / LERTA Administrator from $70,000 a year to $55,000 a year. Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to vote.
For the Bureau of Business Development, Budget Unit 0139, the decrease of salary of the Business Development and LERTA Administrator from $70,000 to $55,000. Mr. Allett,
No.
Mr. Baltimore,
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski,
Yes.
Ms. Reed, Ms. Wilson,
No.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Passes.
The amendment passes.
Proposed amendment for the Bureau of Codes, line item 0137, increase the salary of the health officer from $47,000 a year to $50,000 a year. Do I have a second?
A second.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to vote.
In the Bureau of Codes, Budget Unit 0137, the increase of the salary for the health officer from $47,000 to $50,000. Mr. Allett,
No.
Mr. Baltimore,
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski,
Yes.
Ms. Reed, Ms. Wilson,
No.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Fails.
The amendment fails.
Proposed amendment from the Bureau of Police, line item 0137, proposal to decrease the salary of the community policing coordinator from $63,000 a year to $55,550. Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to vote.
In the Bureau of Police Budget Unit 0137, a decrease in salary of the community policing coordinator from $63,000 to $55,550. Mr. Allett?
No.
Mr. Baltimore?
No.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
No.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
No.
Ms. Williams?
No.
Okay. Fails.
Proposed amendment from the Host Municipal Fees Fund, line 212-12100. This is to establish a host fee budget to include but not limited to the following: adding $10,000 for administrative budget for Environmental Advisory Council for advertising, copying, etc. Adding $50,000 for senior citizens who need services such as cutting shrubs and trees in front of their homes and removal of dead trees. Adding $60,000 for grant program for kids through Harrisburg Housing Authority, $1,000 per child, 50 children, and a $10,000 for administrative cost. Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
These can all be done in one
Yes.
amendment.
Okay, it's not the general fund, it's the host fee, and you're establishing portions of the host fee budget. The total number of the host fee budget won't be known accurately because it depends how it comes in for the year.
Very good, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to vote.
For the Host Municipality Fees Fund, Budget Unit 21212100, to add $10,000 for administrative budget for the Environmental Advisory Council for advertising and copying, to add $50,000 for senior citizens who need services such as cutting shrubs and trees in front of their homes and removal of dead trees, to add $60,000 for grant program for kids through Harrisburg Housing Authority at $1,000 per child for 50 children, and $10,000 for administrative costs. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Amendment passes.
I believe at this time, I think, Madam President, we need to call a recess to,
Yeah.
no? We're still balanced?
You okay? You're still balanced? And you don't need to? Remember him? Yeah, he did. Lance.
Mr. Grove,
Here, Lance.
do we not have to physically change these numbers to?
Right. I'm going to take, yeah. This meeting is now back in session. Moving on for ordinance for final passage. Mr. Claiborne, please read Bill 19 as amended.
Bill 19 of 2014 was moved by Mr. Allett and seconded by Ms. Daniels. It is an ordinance establishing the budget for municipal government of the city of Harrisburg for the year 2015, as amended.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, council members? Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Bill 19 passes,
Thank you.
As amended.
as amended.
Moving on to resolutions. Resolution 126, 2014. Please read that into record.
Resolution 126 of 2014 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Mr. Kaplinski. It is a resolution authorizing the approval, execution, and submission of a partial consent decree between the United States of America, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, Capital Region Water, and the City of Harrisburg to facilitate the conformity of identified aspects of the water and sewer systems and operations serving the municipal area with established environmental standards and regulations.
Any questions or comments, council members?
Ms. Williams, could I ask for a suspension of the rules and a point of inquiry?
Okay. May I have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Thank you. A first and second.
Two items, and I feel obligated to make this request. The mayor had asked this evening that LRTA be added. If it was to be added, the proper place to be added would be at the close of, while you're still in the ordinance section. I'm not suggesting either way that that's done, but I just wanted to advise council, because I don't think we've had that question this year before, where exactly you would do that if you were pulling an ordinance from the floor. Council rules provide that the committee chair can bring it, but that if it's brought by someone other than the committee chair, it requires a 2/3 vote to bring it out of committee. So those are the rules of the road if that is to occur. I just didn't want, I don't know what council members are thinking, frankly. I don't try to read your minds. But because that was raised, I just wanted to put that on the table. And the second item is, I will note, since there was not a committee hearing on this particular resolution, this is the same resolution and agreement that there was a fairly extensive press conference and announcement about by the Capital Region Water. So it is the same thing. If anyone's inquiring, it's the same item.
Okay, and we're at a deadline with this, right?
We are very much at a deadline with this, and I will say that from the city's view, it's a favorable resolution to a very complicated problem.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Solicitor, Madam Chair, Madam President. I wish to bring Bill, what's the number, sir?
18.
Bill 18.
Bill 18, up for a vote.
Second?
This is the letter bill, correct?
Yes.
I'll second.
A vote on that, please? Please go to it.
But no, wait.
There
does not need to be a vote, or does there need to be a vote at this point?
To bring it up from the floor.
To bring it up from the floor, there's a vote to bring it up from the floor.
Yes.
With a vote of, since there are 6 of us here.
No, the vote to bring it from the floor from the chair is 4. A majority vote to bring it from the floor by the chair.
Before I ask the votes, any questions or comments on?
And all you're doing is bringing it to the floor. You're not
Okay.
deciding the documents.
Any questions or comments still? Any? Okay. Call the vote.
This is the vote to bring it from the floor. Bill 18 of 2014 from the floor. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
No.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes?
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
No.
Passes.
Okay.
Mr. Grover? We
Councilman.
don't have the bill in front of us or the amendments.
Are the amendments?
These are the amendments. Copies of the bill.
We don't have it.
Mr. Grover,
Yes, Madam Chair.
has anything changed from the ones we seen the other day? These are exactly what we had the other day.
Well, the additional pages are the additional proposals that council made after the meeting at the Public Works
Which we already
Building.
discussed, right?
At the Public Works Building.
Right.
Well, they were written after the Public Works Building.
Okay.
But weren't some of those incorporated into the bill? So they actually wouldn't have to be voted on as amendments, maybe 1 through 5.
No, because you never had a vote to put them into the bill. So you actually, you reviewed them.
Because we had a first reading without.
We had a first reading without them, and so you would read it as amended
Okay.
and have those provisions put in, but there was not a vote to do so.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mr. Kavlinski said you brought it up.
So each one of these.
We're going to look at adding a variety of amendments to Bill number 18. Council has been and had meetings on at least the first 5. Others have been brought to us later last week and potentially even today on others. First one would amend Section 5-503.3. Mr. Grover, how would you like to proceed? I read it, Mr. Claiborne reads it, you read it.
I think Mr. Claiborne should read it as it is a typed list, it could just be amended for Mr. Claiborne then till we add it to the final version of the document.
Yeah, I don't think you have to read them all separately.
Right. But I will note 1 through 7 were discussed at the council meeting 2 meetings ago. 1 through 5 there seemed to be a consensus on them at the time. I don't know what the answers were through 6 and 7.
Okay.
I will note that depending on what passes, we may have to pull back and then look at the bill, just because some amendments on some part of the bill will become incompatible. So, but I think we'd cross that bridge as we got to it. For example, number 6 was the stage number of years. We had talked about that briefly. If you do that and you still have it goes up to 70, 80, 90 for the job creation, those 2 things would have to be reworked to make how that would happen, because one would basically cancel out the other, so the job creation portion. So, but I think we would have to recess to figure that out, or however council wants to do it from that point on.
And because we are dealing with this non-budgetary items, we need a 4-vote majority.
That's right, it's not a budgetary item, so that's correct.
Mr. Claiborne?
Each one individually, correct?
First Amendment?
Okay.
Qualifying conditions?
Amendment 1 is to add section 5-503.3 qualifying conditions. 503I, the LERTA administrator shall be authorized to propose regulations for the implementation and monitoring of these tax abatement programs. The regulations should assist the city, program applicants, and any owner of a property benefiting from the city's abatement programs to obtain and remain in compliance with applicable local, state, and federal laws. All 11 or just individually?
I think it's,
We're going to have to go individually.
I think individually then.
Okay.
So, it's been presented. Do we hear a second?
A second.
Okay.
Call the vote.
Call a vote.
Vote on Amendment 1. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes?
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Amendment 1 passes.
Okay. Amendment 2. Again, for qualifying conditions, 5-503.3. Mr. Claiborne.
Okay, Amendment 2, to add 5-503.3J, qualifying conditions. The LERTA administrator, directly or through a designee, shall be authorized to monitor any new construction or improvement project and take such steps as are necessary to ensure compliance with the requirements and intent of this chapter, as well as any applicable city policy.
Need a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Claiborne, call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Amendment 2 passes.
Amendment 3, again, qualifying conditions, 5-503.3. Mr. Claiborne.
Amendment 3, qualifying conditions, 5-303.3K. The LERTA administrator shall provide the city council with a written status report summarizing each pending new construction and improvement application submitted to the city under these tax abatement programs on a semi-annual basis. The report should state the progress of each project.
Okay, need a second.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mr. Claiborne, call the vote, please.
Vote on Amendment 3. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Amendment 3 passes.
Okay, moving on to Amendment 4 regarding notification procedures, 5-503.6, Section A. Mr. Claiborne, please.
5-503.6, notification of procedures. A, Notice to taxpayers, in an effort to stimulate the local economy and provide jobs and financial opportunities for city residents and businesses, it is strongly recommended and encouraged that those businesses and property owners who will benefit from this tax abatement program use every effort to employ city residences and businesses, including underrepresented minority, women, LGBT, and disadvantaged labor force participants and business enterprises, not only through participation in new construction and improvement projects for which the tax abatement will apply, but in all future endeavors.
And just a point of clarification, it should indicate that it's the replacement of the fourth sentence of section 503.6.
Replacement of the fourth sentence, section 5-503.6.
Very good, thank you. Second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Okay, call the vote, please.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Koplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Amendment 4 passes.
Okay, we're moving on to Amendment 5. We're going to be adding paragraph to section 5-503.8, termination of contingency. Subsection,
A and B.
looks like A and B.
A and B, yeah.
So what's the B? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You're
I think we're
renumbering,
bumping it down, yeah.
you're renumbering the subparagraphs.
Okay.
A becomes B, and you renumber down.
Okay, second. Did we get a second for that?
You didn't read it yet, did you?
Oh, okay. Adding, renumbering 5-503.8, termination of contingency, renumbering subsection A.
Adding subsection.
Adding subsection A and moving A down to B.
Yes.
A will read as follows. This chapter shall be subject to the public review of City Council after 5 years. In the course of that review, the tax abatement programs implemented by the city under this chapter shall be subject to legislative modification. Nothing in this subpart shall be deemed to alter any vested right to a tax exemption existing at the time of such modification.
Have a second? I think we did that.
A second.
Yes. Questions and comments? This is others are important as well, but this is a particularly important provision in that after 5 years, this council has the ability to look at the program, review the program, update it, or call for its sunset altogether. So, Mr. Claiborne, if you call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Koplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Amendment 5 passes.
Moving on, Amendment 6, where we would replace the entire provision regarding the exemption schedule, 5-503.2. Going to be Section A, where we would, again, as Mr. Grover stated, change the schedule for the abatement process completely. Mr. Claiborne, please.
Replacing the entire provision of subsection of 5-503.2 exemption schedule, subsection A, 1 shall read as follows. For the first year for which improvement would otherwise be taxable on 100% of the eligible subsection 1. For the first year for which improvement would otherwise be taxable on 100%,
Yes, 100%.
100% of the eligible shall be exempted, and thereafter, the amount of the eligible assessment shall decrease at a rate of 10% each year in accordance with the following schedule. Abatement year 1, the percent of abatement shall be 100%. Year 2, 90%. Year 3, 80%. Year 4, 70%. Year 5, 60%. Year 6, 50%. Year 7, 40%. Year 8, 30%, year 9, 20%, year 10, 10%.
Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
And point of clarification, that's the wrong word, but the administration is asked to advise that they are opposed to this particular provision.
They're what?
Opposed to this particular provision. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Mr.
The
Claiborne?
vote on Amendment 6, Mr. Allett,
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore,
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski,
No.
Ms. Reed, Ms. Wilson,
No.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
4-2, amendment passes.
Dr. Grover?
I would note that I think Section 7 is, Amendment 7 is unnecessary in that you already voted on the 5-year provision. They were the two versions of the termination. One was the 5-year review, one was the termination of it altogether.
But this sets the date, right?
Yeah, so
This specifies the date, so maybe we should put it on record.
it would then alter what you just voted on for number 5.
5 years.
Because that had to review at 5 years as opposed to termination. Those were the two items.
Not really. I'm waiting for your explanation.
I'm sorry?
You said it would nullify the 5-year that we did in,
Yeah, but they were presented, when they were presented as two different options for how it was proposed. One was to have the 5-year review to decide whether to terminate at that time. The other was to have the 5-year sunset automatically.
okay.
So those two were, it was a one or the other. I mean, otherwise, it would be unenforceable, the entire
Okay.
statute.
It's all right.
So,
Okay. Number 8.
And I guess if we're looking at 8 now, Mr. Grover?
We are. I'm frankly still looking at 6, trying to figure out in my head, off the top of my head,
I
how that
understand.
works.
I understand.
That's all.
We can do that, or if you need a few minutes, or?
Well, let me be, if I can be as clear as I can with council, as we're doing this sort of on the spot here. Under the proposed amendment just approved, 503.2A1 provides on the first year in which an improvement would otherwise be taxable. I'm trying to figure out whether that applies to the way it's written, new construction or just improvement. That's what I'm trying to figure out sitting here.
Because it was Section A.
Mhm.
I would read it as it would apply to 1, 2, 3, and 4. Obviously, 3 and 4 is 50%, so that would, there's a new adjustment there. But
Point of question, was the intent of that residential only and not commercial?
Wasn't that your?
not mine.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I didn't understand what you just said.
No, I guess that Mr. Allott asked if the intention was residential or commercial. It was not my amendment, but obviously, because the residential is 100% and commercial is 50%, it would have to be adjusted, or the council would have to make a decision whether it would or would not apply to commercial.
Can we suspend the rules?
Suspend the
for that?
rules so we can discuss this or find out who brought it forward and.
Which one? Yeah.
We're talking about the
We're
tax
going back
abatement
to
schedule.
This tax abatement schedule.
Graduate
itself.
schedule.
Didn't we just vote on it?
First of all,
But
Neil, we suspended the rules a long time ago. We never went back in session. You were supposed to be giving us the explanation on this one particular paragraph.
We can fix that as we go.
Okay.
So,
All right.
but under
So
the-
just for the record, it stated that we was already under suspension of it.
So under suspension, with the discussion of this becomes, what does the new section 1 mean? And does it, how does it apply to section 2, 3, 4, A, B, C?
This was Mr.
D,
Broadmoor's.
E, it's under this section. 1 was a replacement of residential construction, because that was what was the 100% residential. There wasn't, because commercial was 50, there was no graduated down. And so A and B had the residential construction and improvements. A was new construction, B2 was improvements, A1 was residential, A2 was residential improvements. 3 and 4 were under A, were the 50% for commercial new construction improvements.
Yeah, I remember that conversation, and I believe that was the intent, was for residential specifically. Do we need to amend that and vote on that again? Is that the?
Well, I guess the question, the inquiry is whether it's intended for residential new construction
Or residential
or
renovation.
residential improvements or both.
I think
Because it's written improvements. So then we probably should add one other amendment that says for new residential construction phrase ought to be put in front of the word improvements under that what was just voted on.
You already have it. You have on number 1 and number 2. You have for new,
Because it says only 1 there.
okay.
It only says 1 on the.
Okay, so then you want 2, include 2.
Right, so I think what you want to say is for, what you're replacing, I think what was currently section 1 and 2 with this section 1 for residential.
Right. Okay, so we are going to have, we have a new amendment, number 7, let's just say, since 7 got bumped, where we would look at replacing the entire provision of 5-5032 exemption schedule, A, and then number 2 regarding residential improvements, which would put that on the graduated schedule as well.
So I think the language we would want is to say to amend section A1 as amended with the phrase in the first line after the words for which, you would add new residential construction new residential construction or improvement. And you'd have that, and then you would renumber 3 and 4 to be 2 and 3.
Very much clearer.
So.
Got that, Lance?
No, you need to, we
So
probably need to.
Sure. So as the amendment 7 would be to amend section 5-503-2 under exemption schedule, section A1, to add to the first line after the 6th word, after for which, the phrase new residential construction or before the word improvement. So the language would read, for the first year for which new residential construction or improvement would otherwise be taxable, 100% of the eligible shall be exempted, and therefore the amount of the eligible assessment shall decrease at the rate of 10% each year in accordance with the following schedule, and the schedule will be as you just voted on it, decreasing 10% a year. That would be it. And then sections 3 and 4 would become sections 2 and 3.
Per year, okay.
Per year.
Sections 3 and 4 will become.
Sections 2 and 3. So this section 1 will replace both section 1 and 2 in the original draft.
Okay, so we are amending section 5-503.2 exemption schedule, A1, as amended to include the words new residential construction in between which and improvement?
Yeah, new residential construction or.
Or, and then improvement. Okay, so it shall read as follows. For the first year, for new residential construction or improvement which would otherwise be taxable, 100% of the eligible shall be exempted, and thereafter, the amount of the eligible assessment shall decrease at a rate of 10% each year in accordance with the following schedule.
Yes.
Okay.
And for clarification, I think what we can do, Madam President, because we're under suspension, is when we come out, you can simply vote to ratify the votes that you took under suspension, and that'll make them part of the record.
Okay. I have a motion to go back into session.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We're now back in session. Now, may I have a vote to ratify the votes, a motion to ratify the votes while we were under suspension, please?
So moved.
Do I need to call a vote?
I think you,
Okay,
Please call the vote.
A vote on Amendment 7 as amended.
no, on
No,
ratifying.
to ratify
Ratifying-
the votes while we
on
were under
ratifying.
suspension.
Okay, the vote on ratifying the amendments made during the suspension. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes. Now we can vote on
On this number 7.
number 7.
Okay, the vote on number 7 as amended or as ratified.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
To ratify.
To ratify.
Didn't we just
No,
vote
it's
on
number 7, so it's as
It's number
ratified.
7, you're right.
Okay.
The new number 7
While we
is
were
with
under
the
suspension, we
changes.
voted on these different amendments.
So
and
we
should've-
didn't just ratify all of
We
those?
should have voted, we should have went back into session, then vote. So that's all we did, is just to ratify the votes.
We
That's why
ratified
we're-
6, not
Okay.
voting on 7.
Okay, yes,
So on 7, you're voting on the adding the language for,
For the-
new construction board, that's what you're voting on.
Gotcha. Ms. Daniels?
yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
No.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
No.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Okay. It carried, it passes. 4-2.
Okay, we're moving on to number 8, qualifying conditions. We're going to add a paragraph to 5-503.3. Mr. Grover, since we've not officially been presented this amendment, if you want to speak about it just for a moment.
Should we make a motion to
Do we have
suspend
to
the
make a
rules?
motion to suspend the rules, please?
If we're
doing it this time,
Okay.
Can we talk through all amendments at the
Yes,
same time?
Yes.
at the same time. Have a
Sure.
motion to suspend?
So moved.
Thank you.
Amendments 8 through 11 were our Bureau's best effort to interpret what was said at the very last LERTA meeting from the various council members to put it into a form for what we boiled down to what was intended. 5-503L is a new qualifying condition, again, for the LERTA administrator. And it provides in the course of reviewing or monitoring any application for exemption under a tax exemption or abatement program, the LERTA administrator is authorized to consider a third-party complaint for any applicant's failure to comply with program requirements. Any determination made by the administrator shall be reviewable by the LERTA Appeals Board.
Okay. And for that, the language should be is authorized to and must consider.
Hold on.
Right now, it's just authorized.
So you propose to put it in
Yeah.
must consider.
Yeah.
Authorize and
And must, yeah. Or shall,
shall.
whichever.
So would it work if we say LERTA administrator shall consider, strike the words is authorized to, and just put the word
That should
shall?
work, yeah.
Very well, thank you. And I don't know if that needs further discussion. That was a point raised by council, basically to let, if a applicant or recipient that had provided information, if a third party who was affected by it thought that they had not provided accurate information to the city, could raise that complaint for consideration. Number 9 is to add a second sentence that says a primary goal, this is to the statement of purpose, that says a primary goal of this tax abatement and exemption programs operating under this ordinance is to ultimately transform blighted buildings and properties owned or otherwise controlled by the city or any public entity to the status of taxable property. And this is an effort to go, to address Mr. Kaplinski's concerns about trying to find a way to protect the public properties in a particular light, so that when they're the ones that benefit from alerta. Of course, to become taxable, they have to become privately owned. So, at least an earlier piece of language would have basically made them instantly ineligible once we transferred them to private ownership. So this was an attempt to address that, to give the alert administrator instruction on how to, what they're trying to make happen here. That is the priority of council. So,
Very good.
does that satisfy your concern, Mr.?
It does. It does put a thumb on the scale for the alert administrator, I think, to you know, if it's a close call and it happens to be one of these properties, you know, that it may put a thumb on the scale to give it the abated status. So, yes, thank you.
Number 10 is to replace the first sentence of section 503-3 qualifying conditions in subsection F, where it is now the city hereby authorizes the formation of a 4-member alert appeals board with 1 appointee for the city administration, city council, Dauphin County, and Harrisburg School District. This was requested by Council President Williams. As I advised President Williams earlier this evening, in my view, that provision, adding a city council person appointment to this, will violate the separation of the legislative and administrative functions set out in the optional third-class city code, that it puts a city council person, a city council appointee into a adjudicative body, as opposed to, which becomes an administrative function to have the adjudicative body. So it also would create a 2-2 board, which would become.
But it's not, we had our discussion.
Yeah, that's the concern.
We had our discussion, so.
Right, that, I
We're going to
will
look
note.
into that, okay.
And that what the statute did not say, the proposed ordinance, which was an oversight on my part, was that the appointments of the mayor are with the consent, advice and consent and vote of the council.
Right, that's right.
Which was the intent.
And it wasn't clarified.
So, so I will note that was, I believe this provision would become unenforceable. That is my concern. It would render the appeal board ineffective, and if you were the person who was denied your alerter for a good reason and you appealed it, that a court would say that that person's rights were not properly protected, their vested interest, and even though they didn't follow the rules.
Well, you're going to look into that. We discussed that. You're going to look into that, right?
It is, but I don't know
okay.
whether council's voting on this tonight. That's
Okay,
why I'm,
all right.
you know, I.
Also let them know it didn't clarify whether or not, as you indicated, you said this was under the state, but this is a board that's created by the city.
My point was, when the city council has an appointment, it usually comes under a state provision that gives to that
But what
authority
state
separately.
provision I asked you that question. What state provision are you talking about when you talk about this alert board that's being created by the city?
You're misconstruing, I apologize, I'm not being clear.
Okay.
When you have other council appointments, such as the EAC,
Sure.
they come under the state statute that gives the council that appointment power.
Sure.
Just like, just like the Municipal Authorities Act, which we fought about, was determined to give a mayor the appointment power to the municipal authorities boards. Because there isn't a state statute under the LRTA that gives council the appointment authority for a LRTA appeals board, then it would normally, but there is a statute that says where there's a division of administrative and legislative function.
Right.
It would seem that this would risk that it would cross over to the legislative function, would come into the administration, and it would invalidate the provision, if not the statute.
But then you can argue too, because it's not, a statute under the alert board. That should be your argument then. That's my argument.
Our job is to defend whatever you pass, Madam President. I just,
No,
Mr. Grover.
it's not to defend everything that I craft, but I.
no, I said if the council
Oh,
passes it, our
okay.
job is to defend whatever the council
I
passes.
just had a question. It's not a statute on an alerter? So you couldn't answer that question,
Can
but
we add a
that's why I
clause?
asked.
Can we add a clause at the end, another amendment that states that if any of these, any phrases or clauses or portions are found to be unlawful, that it would not.
A severability
Yes,
clause.
severability clause. And we can have a vote and continue the discussion.
There is a section 3 already has the severability provision in it. And I frankly don't know what that does to an entire appeal board, that whether the appeal board itself becomes severable, that's the concern. But this is why I'll tell you why we're concerned. In Erie is a third-class city, mayor, council, Plan A. A person who was under a set of regulations, a businessman who had his license revoked and was fined, the Commonwealth Court, Judge Pellegrini ruled that because the regulations he was fined under and which were passed by council, and that because it was an administrative function, those regulations were therefore invalid, and therefore he was not allowed to have his license taken and he was not allowed to be fined. That was the reality. To me, that's analogous to what you're trying to do here, is because the very people that I think that you're concerned of having more reach than you would desire into this process would be the best able to fight about these provisions and pick them apart in a court. And so that is my concern.
Can I ask about the current status of the mayor's appointment? Is it a mayor with council, I just forgot, is it a mayor with council approval? Maybe that could be a happy medium here.
And that was an oversight. It was the mayor's intention to have it with council approval. That was just a drafting oversight, which I believe we said at one of the meetings. And that can be added here, that the mayoral appointments, actually all three appointments, I think, could be subject to council approval, because it's a city board. The appointees come from there, but they could all be subject to council approval, all three appointees. So.
That's something I could live with and work as a middle ground.
Okay.
And the board that we currently have, in the current bill, is it the three-person board or four?
It's a three-person board. That was the one representing each of the three taxing bodies.
Okay. Yeah, because an even number isn't a good idea.
So you're saying we could have approval on the school district and the county's appointment?
Because it's a city board. So we would say, they would present their names to the council for approval.
But see, that was not told to us when you originally put this in this.
Okay, there was an oversight on our part about the consent and approval of council. But this is a city board, there's three appointees, they would present them, but we can make it that the council has to approve them. I mean, the city doesn't have the ability to create an extra judicial board outside of its own jurisdiction. I mean, so this is over the city's LERTA. The thought of having all three members was because you didn't want three different results. You didn't want the person to be able to have something at the city and something different at the county and something different at the school board. That's why the idea of a LERTA appeal board was to represent each of the three taxing bodies, because they all have a vested interest in the outcome of this. And the person would then have their process by all three.
Okay.
I agree to that.
So do we need to amend in a different way, section 5-503.3?
Yes, you do. You need to indicate that the council will have overall approval.
Councilman, what I would propose is under the current draft that was read into the record, not this amendment, the current draft that was introduced on sentence number 1, at the end of it, add a comma after the word district.
Yes.
Each appointee being subject to the consent and approval of the city council. and approval.
Of city council. By city council. Why are you taking me through this?
Each appointment being subject to the consent and approval by city council.
So what the sentence would read, section F in its totality would read, the city hereby authorizes the formation of a 3-member LRTA Appeals Board with 1 appointee for the city, Dauphin County, and the Harrisburg School District, comma, each appointee subject to
Consent
the
and
consent and approval of the city council.
Okay.
And then there's a second sentence, upon formation, the board shall adopt rules and regulations as it deems appropriate to ensure the due process of any agreement applicant is afforded. That would stay the same in that section. Is that acceptable?
Very good. And discussion on that, if we can move to number 11, Mr. Clerk.
What's this?
And obviously, this has to change now.
Yeah.
This is a amendment to, a proposal to replace what was the first sentence and add a second sentence to 503.2 on the exemption schedule. It's a different proposal than the one you just voted on that has the graduated 10-year.
Can't have both ways.
So I guess that's the question. What is it that, I think this is proposed by Councilman Kaplinski. I was trying to,
In the end, I don't think an effect of $150,000 is going to have a great measure, and so I'm going to withdraw the amendment.
did you want to withdraw the amendment?
Did you draw the whole amendment?
Well, unless you want to adjust the.
Well, I was
number.
looking at, I mean, why couldn't you break that into two with the, because the first part of it, you know, that's addressing the city-owned, HRA-owned
Sure,
properties for
sure.
100% exemption for 10 years, which I think would incentivize the city-owned properties a little bit more than some of the private ones, and that would.
I agree.
I mean, I think it gives them, you know, those lots being prioritized as being developed, and that's what we're trying to get rid of the ones we got.
I agree, but again, someone would have to do over $150,000 of construction costs to have it have any other effect.
Well, and I'll say this, the last sentence, as at least it reads, I do believe also violates the problem that I've mentioned before, which is the state constitutional provision for uniformity of taxation. That's the first clause of it. I mean, the second clause of it could stand free. But you're saying, you know, that would simply be the cap on eligible increased assessments, but that would be on everybody.
And that's the concern, because on houses that are coming from the redevelopment authority or the banks, land banks, no cap, but there is a cap on the other. And if you've talked about the equitable taxation concerns, then.
Because by the time they apply, they're the owner. And so did they buy it this year, last year, 10 years ago?
Right. And that's why I went towards,
Yeah, that's the problem.
So.
But to go to Mr. Baltimore's, I think, concern is that you could have a cap, but it would be on all of them in one of these sections. You could cap the residential, you could cap the commercial, but you'd have to have a separate for each of those. I think there was no discussion of commercial, but residential, if it's capped on improvements, that would mean the actual new assessed value. So say if the house was, or property was a $50,000 building and you did a major renovation to it and it became worth $200,000, the additional assessment would be completely still eligible. If it was $225,000, the new assessed value, then the last 25 would be taxable at the current rate, just like the initial 50,000 was. That's what it would do. Now, what this would do to administering it in terms of the county, I don't know. That was one of the discussions we had, because they are tasked with administering whatever the tax abatement program is. The last time one was passed, it basically was non-workable and administratively, because it broke things down into categories that they could not oversee. They don't have the capacity to oversee. So we did have a number of meetings about trying to do having uniformity in this, just so that they can be administered.
And this would not only be an individual house, this would be a full project, and not to put particulars, but Coca-Cola building or something, that would be
I'm sorry, the what building?
like, for example, the Coca-Cola building on 17th Street, if someone were to do something like
Depending
that.
if they turned it into pure residential. I will give you an example. There is properties, at least two now, that have gone into condominiums as in their design. Condominiums are considered separate items, and as each condominium gets its certificate of occupancy, that's what affects its assessed value. They make that as it becomes eligible to be occupied. In that time, it can be broken up. So if each of the units is subject to a separate certificate of occupancy from the county, and it would be in a multi-unit building, then you're saying it would go to each unit where they.
But not apartments.
I think the entire building would be an apartment complex. If it's a freestanding, if it's one building, would be, the question becomes whether that's a residential or commercial. I assume that's residential.
For that reason as well, that's why I wish to withdraw, because that would be difficult for a residential developer.
It would be the numbers.
Just take Riverview on Front Street, I'm sure.
Right, there would not be an incentive for them to do the renovation.
Right. So if someone else wants to pick it up, that's fine, but I'm withdrawing it.
You're what?
Withdrawing 11. Okay, having discussed 8 through 11, we will now move with votes on, what's that? We need to go back into session, yes.
Since we're still out of session, my question to you, Neil, is that we've given you these amendments prior to this meeting. Also, we had several meetings on LERTA. And I'm just sitting here, I'm just perplexed as to everything that we wanted to do. Now you're stating that under the guise of the statute and also under the guise of the third-class charter, that we couldn't do a lot of these amendments. Why was that not told to us before we set up here in this council?
As far as I know, we've had that discussion.
No,
We've had 3
not
different
until-
meetings
not
about
until-
this.
Yeah, but you actually put these amendments in, that you didn't say anything about the statute or the charters, that these amendments were not under the guidelines of the charter or the statutes.
What we have done, we have different tasks in the Law Bureau. One is when council requests us to send down an amendment, we draft an amendment as best we can to capture the intent of the council member who's requested it.
Well, it seemed like you're providing your legal services to the administration, and we're asking you questions because we just got these last night at, what, 4:50? 10 minutes to 5 is when we got these amendments.
These came down last week, as I understand it.
These came down last night. The additional amendments came down last night that we asked you to draft up for city council for this meeting. And I'm just have a problem with the fact that everything that we asked you to do, you're now sitting here telling us it's not under the guise or the guidelines of the statute or the charter. And that should have been told to us when we asked you at those meetings what we wanted to be added in this LERTA legislation.
Madam President, we expressly discussed at the meetings the constitutional equalization provision of the uniformity of taxation. It was discussed at least 3 times in the course of those meetings.
Well, a lot of council members were not there. And in fact, I was at all the meetings, but I'm asking you, and I sat down and asked you about the amendments I wanted to see in here, which I don't even see. But you did not tell me at that time that they were not under the statute, or I couldn't do it because it was not under the charter, third-class charter. You did not indicate that to me. That's why I'm sitting here, I'm perplexed, because everything that we want to do, you're saying, well, this is not under the guise of the statute, and this is not the guise of, and then also you're telling me now that I couldn't do this, add a member to this board. And you tried to give me an example by referring to something that happened in the area, in which that board was completely different. That's a different case altogether. So I do have a problem with that.
All I can do in the law, Madam Chair, is make analogies to how the courts have treated others under the similar laws that we are under.
That wasn't even similar. This LERTA board is new. that board that you're talking about was a creation of a board through the state guidelines. This is not even through the state.
I believe that perhaps I have not been as clear as I could have been.
Okay.
The board was created under the third-class optional city charter law, Mayor Council Plan A, which is what we operate under. This LRTA law is being created under the third-class city charter law, Mayor Council Plan A. When the court interprets the powers of third-class cities that operate under the Mayor Council Plan A, they provide guidelines to the city administration and to the legislation and to my office on how to implement our regulations in a way that satisfies the courts.
But this is new, and there's no guidelines, no specific guidelines. You were just telling us that yourself. I talked to you, Neil. That's why I'm not understanding. You and I sat down for a while, and we talked about this. This is LRTA is new. Implementation of it is new. The whole.
This is a new and unique design based on the state statutes on LRTA and residential. It's an attempt to take what existed before in other municipalities.
And you're trying to compile it, right?
And try to synthesize what worked based on both the language of the statutes and the case law that's been provided by the courts. What was sent down in draft in terms of the bill.
We see that. We read it.
Before it came down, it was vetted in that way. The amendments that are sent down based on requests of council members. We send them down because a council member has asked its members whether to consider it. At that point, I have to advise the member and the members of council as to how that amendment would or would not affect the bill. That is all I am attempting to do.
I'm just asking, you could have said something to us before you sent these down. You could have talked to us, or you could even talk to me. There's things that I asked for to be in this LRTA bill that I don't even see. And I was at the meeting, I asked you specifically the last meeting to put certain things in, and you didn't. I mean, at that time, we talked at length. You could have indicated to me that you could not include this one because it's not under third-class charter or under the statute.
I apologize. I departed that meeting after the first half hour. I had to go
I know you
and
did.
depart. So
I've talked to you since then, but okay.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Any other comments while we are in this twilight zone?
Okay.
Okay.
No.
Motion to go back into session?
So moved.
Meeting's back in the session.
Thank you, Madam President. Looking at amendment number 8, been discussed, qualifying conditions, 5-503.3, going to be adding paragraph, looks like L. Mr. Claiborne.
Amendment 8, Section 5-503.3, qualifying conditions, subsection L. In the course of reviewing or monitoring any application for exemption under a tax exemption or abatement program, the LRTA administrator shall consider a third-party complaint for any applicant's failure to comply with program requirements. Any determination made by the administrator shall be reviewable by the LRTA Appeals Board.
Okay, thank you. Need a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Okay, Mr. Claiborne, you can move to the vote.
Vote on Amendment 8. Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yep.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Amendment 8 passes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll do amendment 9. We'll be adding second sentence to the statement of purpose. Mr. Claiborne, if you could read that.
Amendment 9, adding a second sentence, statement of purpose shall read as follows. A primary goal of these tax abatement and exemption programs operating under this ordinance is to ultimately transform blighted buildings and properties owned or otherwise controlled by the city or any public entity to the status of a taxable property.
Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Call the vote, please.
For Amendment 9, Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yep.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Amendment 9 passes.
Thank you. Moving to amendment 10, final amendment, replacing, actually not replacing, sentence in 5-503-3, I'm sorry, point 3, section F. We'll be adding on to a sentence. Mr. Claiborne, if you could read the addition. Actually, if you could read the full paragraph F as it would be passed.
Okay, Amendment 10 is to read as such. Amendment 10 is to subsection 5, section 5-503.3, qualifying conditions, subsection F, shall read as follows. The city hereby authorizes the formation of a 3-member LERTA Appeals Board with 1 appointee for the city, Dauphin County, and Harrisburg School District, each appointee being subject to the consent and approval of City Council. Upon formation, the board shall adopt rules and regulations as it deems appropriate to ensure the due process of any aggrieved applicant are afforded.
Thank you. Mr. Claiborne.
You want a second?
I need a second. You can't give me a second.
Second.
Need my colleagues a second?
Susan's second.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Any comments or questions? Okay, call the vote, please.
Okay, the vote for Amendment 10, Mr. Allett,
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore,
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski,
Yes.
Ms. Reed, Ms. Wilson,
Yep.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Amendment 10 passes.
Okay. Mr. Grover?
At this time, we ask, could we take a short recess just to review the amendments with the statute to see if there's any incompatibility at the moment, and see whether another, before the entire bill is voted on.
Take a 5-minute. Harrisburg City Council is now back in session. Mr. Grover?
Madam Chair, the Law Bureau finds itself unable to, I think, adequately answer the questions of both the administration and the council at this moment based on the changes to ensure that both sides understand what the current version of this bill will actually do and accomplish. Because of that, I am requesting that the council move to table this bill, that we take the amendments, put them in the amended form of one piece of legislation so everyone can see them together, and then provide an analysis to make sure it's doing what everyone intends for it to do. So there's not some mistake. But frankly, tonight, I am not in a position to tell you that I know what these amendments mean and how they interrelate with the rest of the ordinance, and whether they render any particular section unworkable or unlawful. So at this point, I request that council consider tabling the motion. We will bring it back in January with the amendments, and council can go from there.
Now, please let council, please explain to council that what we did is amended stays.
Yeah, the votes that you amended, that's what we would bring back. When you've seen amended ordinances, amended bills, you know, there's a provision in your own ordinance to say, we capitalize, we underline, we cross out, we show you where the things are, we give you that plus a clean copy. So you can see the bill in its totality now, because there's so many amendments. So what was originally there will be, you'll see stricken out. The amendments will be there, but you'll have a clean copy with how it reads as well. So then, you know, we have a working document that everyone can see that they're voting on. And in the interim, we can analyze it on the legal side to see whether there's a problem. At that point, frankly, we may have, from our office, a recommendation for other amendments, whether they're technical or just even grammatical, to bring this thing into conformity so that it's clear.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Madam President. I did want to clarify with you, Mr. Grover. We had just spoken about Resolution 140, which is related directly to the tax abatement and goes to what's called the responsible contractor language. You talked about how Amendment 2 went to that point. I just want to make sure that as we review the language of Resolution 140 and Amendment 2, that if we find that we need to take some further action, that we will have the opportunity to do that, notwithstanding what we're doing if we have a motion to table.
Absolutely, that would be part of what we would look at to make sure that it still works. But the intention of Amendment 2 was to address that specific point. There was much discussion about having a policy in place regarding responsible contractor. And when we drafted that, that was to allow that policy to be brought in with what the alert administrator would do. But we didn't know exactly what that policy would be when writing the amendment. So it was basically to have that provision at the end of Amendment 2 that said, or any policy of the city is roughly what that language says. But we will look at that. I would also recommend if you might want to consider pulling that particular resolution from tonight's agenda, so you have the two in conjunction to work with.
Well, I was going to put it in his committee.
Put it in committee.
And if I put it in his committee, then there's no need to pull it, because when you have another meeting on this, when you bring that information back to us, you can also do Resolution 140 along with that particular amendment.
Your mind is clearer than mine is at this hour, Madam Chair.
All right.
So-
Now, when you bring the letter back, you can also do Resolution 140, and that supports the contractor language and also supports this number 2 on the 503 qualifying conditions.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Need the motion to table it.
So we will have a motion to table. Need a second? Motion to table Bill
A second.
18.
Second. Call
Any
the vote,
discussion?
please. No discussion on table. Call the vote for a table. Where's the letter?
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yep.
Ms. Williams?
Yes. Okay. Back in session. Moving on to Resolution 126, 2014. Please read that into record, please, Mr. Claiborne.
Resolution 126 of 2014 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Mr. Kaplinski. It is a resolution authorizing the approval, execution, and submission of a partial consent decree between the United States of America, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, Capital Region Water, and the City of Harrisburg to facilitate the conformity of identified aspects of the water and sewer systems and operations serving the municipal area with established environmental standards and regulations.
Any questions or comments on Resolution 126? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 126 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 130 of 2014.
Resolution 130 of 2014 was moved by Mr. Allett, seconded by Mr. Baltimore. It is a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Harrisburg and the School District of the City of Harrisburg for the collection of business privilege and mercantile tax and the amusement tax for 2015.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on Resolution 130? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yep.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 130 passes.
Moving on to Resolution 132.
Resolution 132 of 2014 was moved by Ms. Daniels, seconded by Ms. Williams. It is a resolution approving the Department of Environment Protection Municipal Recycling Program Grant Agreement for $250,000 for the purchase of a leaf collector and rear load packer recycling truck.
So any questions or comments on Resolution 132? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yep.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 132 passes.
Moving on to Resolution 133.
Resolution 133 of 2014 was moved by Ms. Daniels, seconded by Ms. Williams. It is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Viewpoint Government Solutions Incorporated, Viewpoint of Boston, Massachusetts, to develop, deploy, and maintain view permit software for the city's street cut, road closure, and crane permitting.
Any questions or comments on Resolution 133? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yep.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 133 passes.
Moving on to Resolution 137.
Resolution 137 of 2014 was moved by Mr. Allett, seconded by Ms. Wilson. It is a resolution approving the fifth proposed 2014 budget reallocation.
Any questions or comments on Resolution 137? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 137 passes.
Moving on to Resolution 139.
Resolution 139 of 2014 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Mr. Allett. Is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with SMS Systems Maintenance Services Incorporated for maintenance support of the city's mainframe computer system and network components.
And be placed in Administration Committee. Moving on to Resolution 140.
Resolution 140 of 2014 was moved by Mr. Kaplinski, seconded by Mr. Allett. Is a resolution in support of responsible contractor and developer guidelines for residential and commercial tax abatement and exemption programs in the city of Harrisburg.
That will be placed in Community Economic Development Committee. Moving on to old business. Any old business, council members? Hearing none. Any new business, council members? Hearing none. I would like to take this opportunity to wish all of our residents and everyone here at the city of Harrisburg a Merry Christmas and a happy, safe, and prosperous New Year. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second? Second. Thank you. Meeting's adjourned.